As you've probably guessed from the title, today is all about Neil Druckmann and Naughty Dog. Timestamps for each story will be in the description below, so let's just jump into it because there's quite a lot to cover here. Firstly, and probably most notably, Naughty Dog and Neil Druckmann have acknowledged Kestner's cover of True Faith being used in The Last of Us Part 2, and they've actually given her credit for it. Now initially I didn't think she would get anything, and I don't know much about music and cover, but obviously as I stated, I was just swinging in the dark, but it turns out I was wrong. I don't know if Naughty Dog are going to pay her, I don't know how much they're going to pay her if they do, and I'm sure if any of that happens it's going to happen behind closed doors, but it's nice that they've actually acknowledged her and they've credited her in the end. Neil Druckmann has said that it was just an oversight by him and his team, but I don't actually know if I believe that. Obviously that could be a damage control situation for all we know, but I'm not going to say they're lying either because I just don't know. I'm not sure. The main thing is the situation is being rectified, and I guess all's well ends well. Next up we have an interview that Neil Druckmann did with Eurogamer, and the title reads, "There are games that are just comfort food. This is not one of those." Neil Druckmann on Love, Hate and The Last of Us Part 2. This should be a fun read. There's a lot in this article and some of it is just pointless stuff that I've covered before, and I'll leave a link in the description below if you want to read that sort of stuff, but we're going to cover the more juicy bits. So sometime into the interviewer asked Neil Druckmann, "I hope it's okay, just to briefly touch on the elephant in the room as well. I was wondering if the leaks had any impact on the studio." Neil Druckmann says, "They sucked. You've worked on something for so long and then have to come out in the way that it did was disappointing to myself and other members of the team, but pretty quickly we huddled together and wanted to discuss it. First of all, The Last of Us 1 had stuff leak. Uncharted 4 had a truck where the games were stolen off that truck early and people were posting like the ending early, and that didn't take away from anything at the end because nothing compares to playing it. Nothing compares to being Ellie and feeling those moments, not just in cutscenes but in gameplay, conversations, the music and the emotional effect that has on you. And the story was constructed in such a way that it's really not about twists and turns. It's about slowly ratcheting the crank and feeling the tension with the choices the character makes. So okay, it sucks, but we know once people get their hands on it, they're going to feel what it is we're after, whether they've seen it or not, and that's what made us confident. Okay, it's going to be uncomfortable for a while. The game is going to be out there, and I think you're going to get what we want you to get out of it." So he seems pretty confident that once we get our hands on the game, it's going to be hunky-dory, but I don't think this leak is going to be forgotten anytime soon. I don't think this is anything even comparable to Uncharted 4, and I don't think this is a memory that's ever going to go away. The controversy surrounding The Last of Us Part 2 is something I have never seen in the gaming industry before, and I've been playing games for 20 years. So this is where the interview gets a little more interesting. The interviewer says, "Yeah, it totally sucks, and it really annoys me as well because it just felt like there's a toxicity around aspects of the game at the moment, and a minority that won't accept any depiction of diversity at all. I'm curious as to what your thoughts on the reaction to that is, because it seems so contradictory to what the game itself is trying to say." Now before we go into what Neil Druckmann says, I just want to say that what they've just said is extremely disingenuous. It's not that we won't accept diversity, it's that we do not want it forced on us. The leaks could be way off. I doubt it, but you never know. But calling people toxic because they want the story to be told in an authentic way rather than a forced way is a bit silly. So Neil Druckmann replies, "There's a lot of the feedback that came out. Our take on it is you don't know. There's so many false things out there. We don't want to go out there and correct anything because that would be spoiling the game in a way. By saying what it isn't, we're kind of saying what it is." So he kind of said that in a previous interview that we covered, but that's fair enough. The only people that truly know what's going to happen in this game so far is Naughty Dog, and I understand the notion of not wants to go out there correcting leaks because then you might actually end up giving more information than you want. On the other hand, of course he's going to say that. Of course he's going to say that they're all false. He has to protect the game. This is his game. Could turn out to be false, or it could be none of it is false. We're like 8 or 9 days away from it, so I guess we'll see. Neil continues with, "And then as far as the kind of characters we put in our game, we try our best. We made a journey with Ellie, and Ellie is who she is. It's been defined in the previous game. We're going to continue going forward. She's now 19. How do we explore all the facets of what it's like to be a 19-year-old? You think you're invincible. You think you know what's right and wrong in the world. You are sexually attracted to people you're attracted to. Those are all things we want to explore for this character. That's how we do honest storytelling." So if you somehow have a problem with that, well then that sucks, but the story's going to win for us. It's ironic or maybe sad. I think that people will benefit the most from this kind of story are the ones that are yelling the loudest right now. But I hope there's enough in the game to draw them in and just normalize stuff that is normal. It is part of our society, and it is a part of owning up to an interesting nuance nuanced character. That's something that he previously echoed and I spoke about in a previous video. Like I said before, Naughty Dog are confident that whatever they've shoehorned into this game is going to be loved by fans regardless. The story is meant to win for the audience, not you, or at least that's how I look at it. You should want to put a story out there that people like, not just you guys like. If fans don't like what you're putting out, surely that should matter more to you. Then again, we might be the minority, like the interviewer said. Now the themes in this game are a part of our society, but the way you tell a story is important. It has to make sense. I'll give you an example. Anybody here watch Modern Family? My girlfriend got me into it recently and it has a gay couple as two of the main 6 characters in the show, and not a single thing about the show seems forced, and it actually works really well. Nobody has an issue with diversity. People have an issue with how you tell a story. So the interviewer continues, yeah, 100%. I feel so bad that you guys have to weather the storm, but I really think that it's going to be worth it for the people who are finally going to see themselves represented in a game like this. And I think that the people that matter are really going to appreciate it, just, you know, from my perspective. And yeah, a lot of the misconception is like, oh, we're somehow sacrificing the story to win diversity points, and that's not how we work. Everything is in service to the story. Getting better diversity gives us a better story, gives us fresher perspectives on conflict, and I hope once they play the game they'll realize it. And that is exactly what people are thinking right now, that you've sacrificed something to win diversity points. It's not like companies haven't done this before. It's not completely out of the ordinary. The interviewer then says, did you ever worry it was a consequence about making a game about hatred that it kind of begets more hatred in kind? I guess I think a lot of players are uncomfortable with having any kind of mirror held up to themselves in that respect. This interviewer is a joker. Like, what a ridiculous thing to say. They're really trying to spin this as if it's some sort of Naughty Dog victim piece. Neil Druckmann then says, oh, it's interesting that some of the reaction is very much indicative of what the game is designed to do. And I think it's a bit into spoiler territory, but we want to elicit certain feelings from the player, then have them reflect on those feelings for the second part. For us, it's like, okay, we got the first part. Now let's see if we can get the second part once the game is out there, because people, again, just don't know. There's all these theories about what the ending is, but the ending is not out there. You actually don't know how it all comes together. Now personally, I think they're pulling at straws here. Hate is such a strong word. I don't hate the game and I don't hate the direction it's going in. I just don't like it. I'm gonna play it, I'm gonna review it, and if it is what I think it is, I'll speak on it and then I'll put it down. Life will go on. He's making out like we're foaming at the mouth over the leaks because we're all dangerous homophobes or something. He continues with, we're finally getting it into people's hands to see this meticulous journey that we've crafted for Ellie and how these events affect her, the highs and lows of that journey, that there's beautiful sweet moments and these dark hard moments to deal with, and we want it to be challenging, right? Like, yes, there are games that are just comfort food. This is not one of those games. There are moments in this game that are comfort food, and there are moments that are really challenging emotionally to play through. That's part of the design of it. Look, I don't mind a game being comfort food, and I don't mind a game not being comfort food. As a matter of fact, I normally prefer the games that make me cringe and think twice, even with movies. If that's what it turns out to do, then more power to them. But we all know that once it's out, if anyone hates on it, they'll be on their nonsense saying we're just hating on it because of diversity. It's a basic SJW strawman argument. Next up, we have another interview from Neil Druckmann, which says that the story was partly inspired by a lynching Druckmann actually witnessed. And as soon as I read that title, I was like, what the hell? He goes on to say, I don't want to go into specifics about it, but I saw a video of a lynching when I was much younger, Druckmann said in a GQ interview. It was like an actual news thing. And then feeling intense hatred for the people that committed the lynching and thinking like, oh man, if I could hurt these people in some horrible ways, then I could. I don't know where a news station played a lynching, or if he just means that it was news in his local neighborhood or community. The only person I ever remember being lynched on TV was Saddam Hussein, so I don't know. That's a pretty wild thing to say, to be honest with you. Like, obviously we can't tell if he's telling the truth or not, but if he did see that, then that's not something anyone should ever see, but fair enough, I guess. While writing the story for part 2, Druckmann spent some time reflecting on those feelings, that intense hatred he felt at the time. I was like, oh, if we can make the player feel that, he explained, we can make you experience this thirst for revenge, the thirst for retribution, having you actually commit the acts of finding it, and then showing you the other side to make you regret it, to make you feel dirty for everything you've done in the game, making you realize I'm actually the villain of the story. Does anyone else get the feeling that Druckmann may be a little unhinged? I'm just playing, but okay, fair enough. Sounds like the game is going to be eye-popping and it's going to make me question loads of things. It's going to have loads of gritty content, but I just thought I'd share that with you. The whole lynching story is crazy. I don't know, like, that has come so left field for me. But next up is diversity is important because it leads to better stories, says Naughty Dog correctly. I don't know what the correctly part is about, but okay, right off the bat, I disagree for obvious reasons, but let's just see what they have to say. At Naughty Dog, diversity is as important as graphics, combat, and music because ultimately it leads to better stories, creative director Neil Druckmann explained in a GQ interview. Ashley Johnson shared a story with me where someone came up to her and told her that The Last of Us gave her the courage to come out to her family. It's amazing that a story was able to do that. Those stories are inspiring to say, look, when we tell varied stories, they can have a real impact and effect on people. Well, firstly, we don't know if that's true or not. Any brownie points are going to count, and secondly, I don't think diversity is as important as any of those other things to actually making a game. Like I said before, you can tell a story of a person of any creed and have people relate and resonate. I don't think you really need to look like someone or be aligned with their sexual preferences or gender to feel like you've gotten a good story across or feel like you can connect with someone. I connect with characters whether they're gay, straight, bi, black, Asian, white, it doesn't matter. But maybe I'm being too biased. Maybe people, you know, they connect more if they know someone else sleeps with the same kind of people they do, or they have the same gender alignment. I don't know. It's weird to me. I feel like character and personality traits should play more of a role, but you know, whatever. In fact, character diversity is one of the reasons Westworld writer Haley Gross came on board to help write The Last of Us Part 2. Before agreeing to the job, she saw some concept art of a muscular woman who's played by Laura Bailey. As soon as I saw the drawing of her with these awesome shoulders and big tough arms, I was like, are you gonna show me this in the game? Then she said, I'm in. Okay, so clearly they're more excited for this heavyweight champion they've got in the game than most of us are, but fair enough. That's a weird flex to me, but fair enough. Next up, The Last of Us Part 2 aims to take some of the things people hold sacred and just dismantle it. The first game is so sacred, the ending is so sacred, Druckmann said. People are always like, oh, do another one but focus on all new characters, or like do it in like Europe or do it in Japan, do something really different. The interviewee notes that Druckmann considered all of these options the coward's way out. I don't know if the coward's way out is how I described them, but fair enough. To me, at that point, you might as well just do a new IP, he explained, versus saying, no, we're going to double down and we're going to expose what this ending means, to take some of the things that people hold sacred and just dismantle it. That dismantle business kind of sounds like it's trying to annoy the people that don't like the leaks to me. I don't know, I could be reading that wrong. It could mean that, you know, he dismantles what a good story is. So who knows at this point? He could end up telling a ridiculously stupid story and shatter the extremely low expectations that a lot of people have for the story. Who knows? And the last bit of news to come from Naughty Dog is Naughty Dog's next game will either be The Last of Us Part 3 or a new IP. As you start wrapping things up creatively, there are fewer and fewer responsibilities, and my mind can't help but think about the next thing, creative director Neil Druckmann said. So yeah, the next thing could be a Part 3, the next thing could be a new IP. Okay, so no Uncharted 5 then, which to me is a massive bummer. The Last of Us Part 3 though, okay, well, let's not jump the gun since 2 isn't even out yet. We don't know how it's going to do. I mean, I'm fairly confident Last of Us Part 2 is still going to do well. Now, it would be really interesting to get a new IP from them for sure. What do you guys think they should jump into next? And what do you guys think of all these Druckmann interviews? Are you more excited for the game, or has it put you off even more? Let me know in the comment section below, guys. As always, thank you so much for watching the video. Take good care of yourselves, and I'll speak to you very soon. Peace.